Tonight on NewsWatch, Arizona goes head-to-head with the Obama administration. The Supreme Court weighs in on the state's illegal immigration crackdown.
Plus, Fast and Furious, a look at the bloody gun-running scandal plaguing the federal government. Why some are calling for criminal charges.
And religious freedom. Workers banned from wearing cross jewelry to work. Hear where it's happening and how Christians are fighting back. All this and much more tonight on NewsWatch. Arizona takes on the Obama administration before the Supreme Court. Good evening, everyone. I'm Wendy Griffith.
And I'm Lee Webb. The nation's highest court took on one of the hottest topics in America today, enforcing immigration laws. The question, should Arizona be allowed to do more to enforce those laws than the Obama administration is willing to do? Paul Strand starts our coverage tonight from the high court.
Those who oppose Arizona's SB 1070 say it targets Latinos, telling police they have to ask people they've stopped about their immigration status if they suspect something's awry.
We should not have laws in which 50 states have 50 different ways of treating immigration policy, especially laws that can only be enforced by making judgments on whether you have dirt on your boots, the color of your skin, the accent of your voice, or your last name.
But Jay Sekulow of the American Center for Law and Justice pointed out this hearing proved this law is not about profiling people by race.
The Chief Justice asked, and the government conceded, that this case is not about racial or ethnic profiling, which was the basis of so much of the discussion in the media.
And those on the front lines, like Cochise County Sheriff Larry Deaver, whose deputies patrol 82 miles of border with Mexico, say if the justices rule against SB 1070, it'll send a bad signal.
We've been in a pitched battle down there. It's only going to increase and grow. I think a lot of people are waiting to see what's going to happen before they creep back into the country, some that have left.
Backers of the law say it's just a copy of the federal law against illegal immigration. So the real issue is, can Arizona enforce the law when the federal government is refusing to?
Merely allows the state and local authorities to enforce federal law. The federal government and this administration should be embracing that cooperation.
I'm embarrassed by those who ignore the damage to America. I'm embarrassed by those who think it's somehow unfair to enforce our laws.
That's not the way opponents see it.
I have heard so many children tell me firsthand, we are so afraid when our mom and dad leave in the morning because we don't know if they will be there when we get home from school.
Arizona's governor did admit this law could end up tossing in jail all of her state's 400 or 500,000 illegal immigrants.
If they're breaking the law, there's that possibility, I would assume.
What all sides wonder is if the Supreme Court backs the law, could that affect the upcoming election, inflaming Latinos to vote against Republicans who are seen as more tough on illegal immigration? Or if the court throws out the law, could that give Republicans a tough law and order issue with which to bash Democrats? The court will rule by midsummer. Paul Strand, CBN News, the Supreme Court.
South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson joins us now from Washington. He sat in on today's arguments at the court. Mr. Wilson, you're watching this case very closely. I understand in South Carolina, your immigration law is very similar to those in Arizona. How will the outcome affect South Carolina and other states around the country?
Well, it's going to affect us specifically with South Carolina because some of the very provisions that were debated today in the court were provisions that are in our law. One thing that wasn't briefed today in oral arguments, but I found it very interesting, is that the Justice Department has a concern about potential profiling or harassment, as they call it in today's argument, whereby an officer would ask you a question as to your nationality if they had a reasonable suspicion to believe that you were here illegally. They call that profiling harassment. However, if you go to the Department of State website under the Bureau of Consular Affairs, you will find a manual called the Bureau Access Notification Access Manual, which basically directs and shows law enforcement officers they must make it a determination as to someone's nationality when they are detained for, say, a traffic violation. What happens if that officer, in the process of making a determination as to that person's nationality, has to find out that that person's here illegally? You have the Justice Department saying one thing, and you have the State Department saying the exact opposite. This federal government, this administration, it doesn't know which way it stands on immigration because they're speaking out of both sides of their mouth.
Yeah, it makes common sense. You got to find out where somebody's from, right? Well, you heard the arguments.
Oh, absolutely.
You heard the arguments today. How do you think it went? Any indication of how the justices are leaning at this point?
Well, I thought it went very well for the state of Arizona and obviously South Carolina and other states. One of the issues that was brought up, and I think I made this remark about Justice Scalia's comment, when he basically said that the way Congress preempts state law is they pass a federal law that either occupies a field of law or it conflicts with state law or it prohibits state law from doing something. That didn't happen here. What happened here is that the policies and priorities of the Justice Department are being frustrated. And those are the words of the Justice Department, not us. So Justice Scalia is saying, are you saying that a federal agency, the executive branch, can change its internal policies and procedures and that preempts state law? That is not the same function as a congressional law that is passed in the legislative branch.
Now, you would like the states to be allowed to handle their own immigration issues. Why so?
Well, I want states to be able to help support the federal government who's complaining for years about a lack of resources, a lack of funding. That's all the federal government does. That's why they claim that they can't support or enforce the immigration laws. All we're doing is saying, okay, we have 50 states with local law enforcement at all levels that are standing by to, when they make an arrest, because think about it, who touches the average everyday citizen's life more, a federal agent or a local law enforcement? When they find somebody who may have been pulled over for an innocuous traffic stop, and then they make a cursory inquiry into that person's status, and they find out that person may have conducted a heinous crime in another country or in another state. That is information that I think the federal government, that the folks handling immigration would want to know, and that's what we're trying to give states the ability to do, to help the federal government do their job.
South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano faced tough questioning today about that Secret Service scandal. Napolitano says the investigation into the Colombian prostitute incident is ongoing, and that investigators will leave no stone unturned. Napolitano told the Senate Judiciary Committee today that the Secret Service never placed the president's security at risk, but she called the agent's behavior, quote, inexcusable.
A growing number of lawmakers say Attorney General Eric Holder should be charged with contempt of Congress. Critics claim that Holder and other officials in the federal government have tried to cover up a major scandal that involves running guns into Mexico. John Waggy explains.
For more than a year, both House and Senate committees have tried to find out why the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms sent guns across the Mexican border. Guns that found their way into the hands of drug cartels and led to the death of at least one border agent, Brian Terry, and possibly scores of Mexican citizens. The House Governmental Affairs Committee has heard from a parade of witnesses, including Attorney General Eric Holder, but many are not satisfied with what they see as stonewalling and the submission of heavily edited documents, as this hearing from February shows.
The conclusion that I come to is there's some things in there that's being hidden that you don't want us to see.
There's no attempt at any kind of cover-up. We're not going to be hiding behind any kind of privileges or anything.
How many more Border Patrol agents would have had to die as a part of Operation Fast and Furious for you to take responsibility?
That kind of question, I think, is frankly, and again, respect, I think that's beneath a member of Congress.
14 months after Agent Terry's death, his family filed a $25 million wrongful death lawsuit against the government. And as Arizona Congressman Paul Gosar told Fox Business Channel this week, some lawmakers are ready to cite Holder for contempt of Congress.
Time's up as far as I'm concerned. We've waited long enough for details and documentation and be able to hear witnesses. So I'm pushing forward. I'd like to see the chairman really look forward at contempt charges.
Meanwhile, one Washington investigative reporter also alleges that Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano may have perjured herself in congressional testimony about Fast and Furious. John Waggy, CBN News.
Now that investigative reporter is Katie Pavlich. She joins us now from Washington. Katie is the editor for townhall.com, and she has written a book called Fast and Furious, Barack Obama's Bloodiest Scandal and Shameless Cover-Up. Katie, you have said in strong words that this scandal is far worse than the Watergate scandal and in the 70s or Iran-Contra in the 80s. Why do you come to that conclusion?
Well, first of all, I mean, you look at this scandal and the fact that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of Mexican citizens dead as a result of this program, not to mention Border Patrol agent Brian Terry, who was part of a special operations Border Patrol unit, and Jaime Zapata, who was an ICE agent killed in Mexico with these guns given to these cartels by the Mexican government. This is far worse, and the mainstream press isn't reporting on it because they know that if the average American person knew the details of this, President Obama wouldn't be getting a second term in November.
Katie, the mainstream media seem to be portraying this as maybe bad policy or incompetence at worst. You say it's much more sinister than that. Why?
There's nothing that drives whistleblowers who came out and told us about this scandal crazier than when people say this was a botched operation, that somehow this was a program that spun out of control. Out of 2,500 weapons, they put 2 tracking devices on them. This was mandated. The federal government, the Justice Department, ATF managers told these ATF agents on the ground, you need to tell these gun dealers to settle these straw purchasers and you will not arrest them, allow these guns to walk into Mexico.
You say in your book that both Holder and Napolitano may have lied to Congress. Tell us about that.
Well, my sources say that, Janet Napolitano has said under oath in front of Congress that she didn't know about Operation Fast and Furious while it was going on. She never talked about the program to Attorney General Eric Holder, despite 2 of her agents being murdered as a result of this program. Eric Holder has changed his testimony in front of Congress multiple times under oath. And the problem is that there's documentation to show that Attorney General Eric Holder was briefed at least 5 times, nearly a year before he first admitted. And the people that they're connected to, which I go into detail in the book, it shows that they absolutely knew about this program.
And you believe the administration's opposition to the Second Amendment is behind Fast and Furious?
Look, if you go back to the beginning of the Obama administration, President Obama, Attorney General Eric Holder, and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton were all pushing this 90% figure, that 90% of guns in Mexico that the cartels are using to kill people are actually coming from gun dealers in America. Well, it turns out that statistic is false. It's a lie. State Department cables show it's a lie. These cartels are getting their guns from China, Central America. They're not getting them from mom and pop stores in the United States. But instead of taking that as it is, the Obama administration instead decided, well, we're going to flood Mexico with guns. We're going to have our ATF agents tell these gun dealers to sell to these straw purchasers who we know are working for the cartels, lie to the gun dealers and tell them the guns are not going to Mexico. But when they do show up at Mexican crime scenes, turn right around, blame the gun dealers, and then slap them with more regulations as a result.
Katie, in your heart of hearts, do you believe that this investigation will result in heads rolling in Washington over this?
I have to have faith that it will. Congressman Issa has done way too much at this point to quit now. And you have to remember that Watergate took 3 years to fully investigate and get answers from. And people like Brian Terry and his family and everyone else who has been a victim of this program deserves some answers. So I'm hoping that we'll see contempt charges and hopefully criminal charges filed after that for those who deserve it.
Well, you've written a compelling book, and we appreciate you being with us. Katie Pavlich from our bureau in Washington. Katie, thank you.
Thank you.
And coming up, the race for the White House. President Obama transitions into full campaign mode, sharpening his attacks on Mitt Romney.
On April the 10th, 1912, almost 100 years ago to the day, the most famous ship in recorded history set sail from Southampton, England, with 2,228 souls aboard. The ship's name? The Titanic, the unsinkable queen of the ocean. To commemorate this historic event and one of the greatest stories ever told, the Sterlington Collection is honored to present the limited edition collectible Deep Romance pendant. This magnificent 14.5 carat faux Ceylon sapphire is hand set in stunning silver tone. The center stone is surrounded by a scintillating set of 20 flawless diamond Z4 crystals and is hung on a striking silver tone herringbone necklace. The beauty, luster, and sparkle of this beautiful pendant and necklace is truly unsurpassed and surely destined to become a cherished family heirloom and a favorite in your jewelry collection. This timeless classic honors those that lost their lives and represents the enduring love symbolized by our Deep Romance pendant. The original is one of the most talked about gemstones in history, and in today's money will be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The Sterlington Collection is proud to present this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to purchase the stunning Deep Romance pendant for the low price of $19.90. Quantities are extremely limited, And if you reserve yours today, you will also receive these magnificent replicas of Titanic memorabilia, including the White Star Line first class menu, an advertisement for the infamous voyage, and one ticket for the Titanic, the finest steamer in the world. Order now, and you can also receive the striking Deep Romance ring, the perfect complement to your Deep Romance pendant. This collection of jewels and memorabilia is only available for a limited time, so call or click to reserve yours today.
Call 1-800-396-0936 and get your Deep Romance pendant. But hurry, callers can get a special offer on a matching ring with today's orders. So call 1-800-396-0936 and find out about free shipping. That's 1-800-396-0936. Call now.
The GOP battle for the presidential nomination is all but over. Mitt Romney swept all 5 primaries Tuesday.
And we're learning that Newt Gingrich will end his campaign next week. Now Romney shifts his focus to preventing Barack Obama from serving another term. Charlene Israel reports.
I can say with confidence and gratitude that you have given me a great honor and solemn responsibility. And together we are going to win on November 6th.
With his sights set on November, Mitt Romney is embracing his role as the presumptive Republican presidential nominee. Romney easily won the primaries in Connecticut, Delaware, New York, Pennsylvania, and Rhode Island. Now he's refining his attacks against President Obama.
Tonight is the beginning of the end of the disappointments of the Obama years. And it's the start of a new and better chapter that we will write together.
Meanwhile, President Obama is trying to pump up the youth vote.
Can I get an amen?
4 years ago, the youngest generation of voters helped put him in the White House. This year, Obama's crowd was less than half the size it was when he visited Chapel Hill, North Carolina before his first term.
You know, honestly, I just wasn't really that interested.
Young voters still support him, but the enthusiasm isn't there this time around. So the president is hitting the campaign trail to talk about student loans.
Michelle and I, we've been in your shoes. When we married, we got poor together. Check this out, all right? I'm the President of the United States. We only finished paying off our student loans about 8 years ago.
In another attempt to appeal to the youth vote, Obama appeared on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, hoping to score points with a little humor.
Now is not the time to make school more expensive for our young people.
Oh, yeah. Romney says Obama is missing the point and that it's time for Americans to do something about the economy.
Are you making more at your job? No. Do you have a better chance to get a better job? No. Are you paying less at the pump? It's still about the economy, and we're not stupid.
Charlene Israel, CBN News.
Megachurch pastor Joel Osteen opened the U.S. House of Representatives in prayer. He prayed that the lawmakers would be mindful to honor God in their work.
Help these lawmakers to search their hearts so that they may serve with dignity and honor, and that through them our nation will achieve the destiny that you have set before us. Give them wisdom as they make good decisions, courage that they will hold fast to your truth, and compassion that all should prosper from their laws.
Osteen is pastor of the popular Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas.
We are seeing a dangerous new trend among teenagers. They're actually drinking hand sanitizer. The popular disinfectant is more than 60% ethyl alcohol. The teens are using it to get drunk, we're told. Some use a distillation process to separate the alcohol out. Instructional videos show the process, and it's posted all over YouTube. The potent amount of alcohol is sending many of those teenagers to the emergency room.
We have patients coming into the emergency department with these kinds of signs and symptoms: slurred speech, lack of balance, changes in their mental state.
If kids don't realize how concentrated it is and take a large quantity of it, take a few shots, certainly kids can die from this.
Doctors ask that parents be cautious. Getting high off household items is not uncommon. Glue and cough syrup have also been used.
Up next, a cross case heads to court. How UK Christians are fighting a ban on wearing the cross to work.
If you have diabetes and you're on Medicare,
Call now for a new pain-free meter. These new meters are more accurate, they're easier to use, and the best news is you don't have to prick your fingers anymore. Call now, and Arriva Medical will send you one of these new meters for free. And if you have Medicare, your testing supplies may also be covered. Arriva makes it simple. They bill Medicare directly. There are no upfront costs. And they deliver your supplies right to your door for free. With these new meters, there's no coding, you don't have to prick your fingers, and some of these meters even talk.
Your blood glucose reading is 122.
And if you call 1-800-284-9762, we will send you a free Betty Crocker Diabetes Cookbook filled with delicious recipes.
Call Arriva today. You'd be glad you did.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. Do you have breathing problems like asthma, chronic bronchitis, emphysema, or COPD? Then you may qualify for Medicare coverage of your respiratory medications. To see if you qualify, call Med4Home. Med4Home is a specialty pharmacy. They offer a wide variety of respiratory medications, which may be covered under your Medicare Part B benefits. Let Med4Home's team of experts work for you. They'll work directly with your doctor. They'll deliver right to your home and call you monthly for refills and to see how you're doing. Best of all, they'll handle the Medicare paperwork for you. It's so easy. And if you have supplemental insurance, there may be little or no out-of-pocket expense. Let Med4Home's team of experts work for you. Call Med4Home now to see if you qualify. For more information, call 1-800-321-0089. That's 1-800-321-0089.
Well, can Christian employees be forbidden from wearing crosses at work? The British government says yes.
Yeah, that country just passed a law allowing it, but Christians say not so fast. Peter Wooding explains.
Each day, Nurse Shirley Chaplin wears this cross around her neck as a symbolic reminder of her Christian faith.
When I was confirmed, I put my crucifix on. To me, it's almost sort of symbolic, like a wedding band. I made the vows to be a Christian when I was 16, 17, and I've never taken it off from that day.
But if the British government has its way, she'll lose her right to wear her cross to work. Later this year, the government will argue before the European Court of Human Rights that employers have the right to ban their employees from wearing their cross and fire them if they insist on doing so. CBN News has been following Chaplin's case since 2010, when she first claimed discrimination.
We very much hope that the government will see common sense here by saying that it's not a manifestation of the Christian faith. By making that kind of statement, they make the cross an issue.
Williams, however, is deeply concerned at the implications of the government's stand on the issue for the future of religious liberty in the UK and Europe.
I can hardly bear to think about what the implications are. As the director of the Christian Legal Centre, I do not contemplate losing at this point. It's something that we have to win.
The British government was not available to speak to CBN News about their stand on this matter, but in a statement said, "The Equality Act makes very clear that people have the right to express their views in a legitimate way, as long as they don't discriminate against a particular group or individual." So what do these office workers think about the government's plans to allow employers to ban their employees from wearing crosses to work?
I'm appalled, absolutely appalled. I can't believe it.
To be honest, I'm quite shocked that they would do this. You know, we call ourselves a Christian nation.
I think it's ridiculous. If it's if it's a Muslim wearing one of a hijab or something like that, they would back them and say that it was okay for them to do it.
Chaplin believes whatever the outcome of her case, Christians need to continue to make a stand for their beliefs.
We need to stand and let other Christians make a voice so that we are heard, so that we have the equality which we all deserve.
So as this case is decided in the European Court of Human Rights later this year, Christians are praying that victory for Chaplin will pave the way for many others like her to proudly wear their cross to work without fear of reprisals. Peter Wooding for CBN News, England.
If you have diabetes and you're on Medicare, call now for a new pain-free meter. These new meters are more accurate, they're easier to use, and the best news is you don't have to prick your fingers anymore. Call now, and Arriva Medical will send you one of these new meters for free. And if you have Medicare, your testing supplies may also be covered. Arriva makes it simple. They bill Medicare directly. There are no upfront costs. And they deliver your supplies right to your door for free. With these new meters, there's no coding, you don't have to prick your fingers, and some of these meters even talk.
Your blood glucose reading is 122.
And if you call 1-800-284-9762, we will send you a free Betty Crocker Diabetes Cookbook filled with delicious recipes.
Call Arriva today. You'd be glad you did.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. Do you have breathing problems like asthma, chronic bronchitis, emphysema, or COPD? Then you may qualify for Medicare coverage of your respiratory medications. To see if you qualify, call Med4Home. Med4Home is a specialty pharmacy. They offer a wide variety of respiratory medications, which may be covered under your Medicare Part B benefits. Let Med4Home's team of experts work for you. They'll work directly with your doctor. They'll deliver right to your home and call you monthly for refills and to see how you're doing. Best of all, they'll handle the Medicare paperwork for you. It's so easy. And if you have supplemental insurance, there may be little or no out-of-pocket expense. Let Med4Home's team of experts work for you. Call Med4Home now to see if you qualify. For more information, call 1-800-321-0089. That's 1-800-321-0089.
Well, nowadays, many groups here in the U.S. are fighting to keep the Bible and its message out of the public eye.
But in Israel, the government there actually sponsors Bible-related events. Chris Mitchell has that story tonight from Jerusalem.
Dozens of Jewish teenagers from Israel, the U.S., and around the world came to Jerusalem to compete in the International Bible Quiz this year. Israel's first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, started the competition. It's held on Independence Day each year, and questions are asked in Hebrew, with translation if necessary.
When you read the Bible, you read in what language? Spanish. Oy. Okay, that has to be corrected.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with the contestants.
So I want you to learn Hebrew, and I want you to come to Israel, because, you know, the Bible, the Tanakh, is not an abstract book.
Netanyahu says he studies the Bible with his sons on the Sabbath. His son Avner took third place in the competition 2 years ago. The young people were excited to be in Israel.
It's amazing. Like everything is really amazing in a trip, and meet other people, and like be here with Netanyahu was like amazing.
Now that I've studied the Bible and I've seen many places that are actually in the Bible. It's great seeing for real what you studied.
But Netanyahu told them it's not enough to just visit.
But I want you to actually come and live here, because this is a great adventure. Okay? It gives an opportunity for you, as young Jews, to be part of Jewish history and to make Jewish history.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
I'll tell you what, the Bible really comes to life when you're in Israel. And I mean, every time you just open it, it's like, oh, that's in the Bible. So.
Well, it's great to see. Thanks for watching tonight. We hope you'll join us next time.
Have a great night. Bye-bye.